just briefly for those of you, and particularly I'm thinking of our guests from Morocco, to learn a little bit about the Family Diplomacy Initiative. It's a long-term effort to engage people in family diplomacy across the world. And family diplomacy is essentially understood as not just giving voice to families, but also having families interact with each other across borders, and ultimately to have trained family diplomats to speak to media, businesses, governments, and nonprofits to be able to advocate for families on a whole variety of issues. And so it's a long-term process. We started this Family Diplomacy Initiative in 2016, and we have been growing the Family Diplomacy Initiative since then. But the core of it is identifying people who want to serve as family diplomats. These are trained people across the world, and part of what we're doing this year, just like we did in the last 2 years, is to basically develop your skills and your knowledge as family diplomats, as well as your connections across the world. So with that kind of introduction to the Family Diplomacy Initiative, you should have received, you should have received this page at the website, but this page describes the family diplomacy issue presentations, which we're going to be doing in the coming months, the coming 4 months. And the point and the objective here is not so much to, like in the last two trainings, to ensure that that you guys are developing your skills at storytelling. It is more focused on your ability to learn, and to develop your knowledge on a topic, one of five major issues that are impacting families across the world. And you get to choose what issue you want to present on, and you would be presenting on that issue from your vantage point in your country, how that issue affects your family, how that issue affects your community and your country. And in the process of presenting, you're going to learn some stuff, but you do not have to be a presenter. And so this is important. We want people to participate as either presenters or as evaluators of the presentations. And most of the people here, including our interns, are going to be evaluators. They're going to be giving you feedback based on your presentation. And so we have up to 12 spots for presentation um, in the next 4 months. 3 presenters per month. So 3 in August, 3 in September, 3 in October, and 3 in November. Each speaker will have 15 minutes to present, and then you will have about 10 to 15 minutes of feedback on your presentation. And you'll be evaluated ultimately not by the feedback that you get at live during the meeting, but rather by how you answer a pre-survey and a post-survey. So between now and I believe it's August 11th is when the next meeting is. You need to take the pre-survey if you have not already. And then we will have you take the post-survey after all the meetings. So after the November meeting is finished, we'll ask you to take a post-survey. In those two surveys, we're going to be asking you the same open-ended question. What the open-ended question means is we ask you essentially what you learned during these meetings, and what you know about these five issues that we're focusing on. And those five issues, it looks like I don't have them highlighted here, so I need to highlight them. But those five issues are, there they are, they're at the top. War, poverty, climate change, the internet, and gender-based violence. You can choose one, or you can choose a combination of two, or even possibly three, if in fact those issues are impacting your family. So it's very important for you to talk about an issue and choose an issue that impacts your family, and ideally it impacts your community and your country. And so you'll be crafting your story around that issue and how it impacts your family, first and foremost. And but you're going to be in the process of these 4 meetings. You're going to be learning about the other issues as well, right? Because you're going to be learning from other presenters about their issues and their perspectives from different parts of the world. So by the end of this, right, by the end of 4 meetings, you should know some more about those issues than you knew previously. And that's what we're going to be measuring. It's not your presentation skill, it's your knowledge that you gained over the next 4 meetings. And we'll be measuring that through that, as I mentioned, that pre-survey and that post-survey, asking you the same question, which is, what do you know about these issues? After the meetings, what have you learned about those issues? So what do you know before, and what do you know after the meetings? With your actual presentation, you need to be able to deliver a well-researched presentation. So here I'm referring to this paragraph of information here. There are 2 basic things that we want you to keep in mind. One is that you should be using legitimate sources of information. Now, that may not sound nowadays like it's a very clear thing because we get information from all kinds of sources. But generally speaking, and I'm happy to give you some more guidance on this, but these are government sources, university sources, or established news, research, and think tank sources of information. What established means, we can have a conversation about those things, and you can certainly check with me about these things if you have questions. But the key thing is you need to marshal information and share that information in your presentation for us to better understand the situation that's happening in your community, your country, and then of course in your family. That's just based on the facts that you gather about your family. So you want to be very clear, and you want to provide a lot of information in your presentation, to give us a clear sense of things. And of course, you want to tell a good story, but here again, we're focusing on knowledge, not storytelling ability. The second thing is we encourage you to use slides. PowerPoint, if you have it, I totally understand if you do not have PowerPoint, but if you do have photos and other things that you want to share with us, it could be a chart or something like that. You can share that with us, and our intern will be helping you to some extent with that presentation development. It'll probably be the interns our fall interns who are coming on in September that will be helping you. But starting in August, these interns that are with us now will be giving you feedback on your presentations. And I will be asking Kennedy and Gabriela in particular, who are focused on our international family diplomacy work, to help you with the development of those presentations for those of you who are presenting in August. So FYI, Kennedy and Gabriela, I don't think I told you about that part, but just so that you're aware of it. So that's that. The next thing, so in terms of eligibility here, I just want to convey that your internet needs to be strong enough to do video presentation. That's really only at the time in which you are actually presenting. So I'm not too worried about the times when you're not presenting. However, if you want to get a certificate of completion for these issue presentations, you need to attend at least at least 4 of the 5 meetings. So you guys are already, this counts as one, so you're attending one, and you need to be able to attend all 4 of the 5 meetings. And you need to actively participate. What that means is we want to hear feedback from all of you on the presentations, whether it's typed in the Zoom chat or you speak it. So you want to either provide feedback spoken or in the Zoom chat, and that counts as active participation. So just coming to a meeting and not saying anything does not count as active participation. You really need to be participating in the meetings to get credit and to get the certificate at the end. There will be up to 3, and so I want to emphasize it's up to 3. It's not guaranteed that you have 3. There will be 3 people who get $100 cash prizes, but there will be up to 3. It really depends on how much you improve in your knowledge from the pre-survey to the post-survey. So you want to learn a lot. You have an incentive to learn a lot. Um, and uh, and um, and so the basically the top scorers, if you reach a certain threshold, the details will come to this later. But if you when we do the analysis, there will be an independent group of volunteers who are going to be evaluating your pre-survey and your post-survey. So not the people that are involved in evaluating here, but rather a separate group of people who do not know you, because we want them not to be influenced by, oh, I like, our man from Morocco more than this person from Ghana. So I like their story more. And so we don't want them to be influenced by those things or by their relationship with you. So it's going to be a separate group of volunteers who, like the last 2 years, are going to be evaluating your pre and your post surveys. And then the ones, if you reach this, you manage to have a high knowledge, demonstrate high knowledge and improvement through a quantitative scoring system, then you will get one of those $100 cash prizes. So we do track. I just want to mention to you guys, attendance is important. We track your participation. If you're more than 10 minutes late or you leave more than 10 minutes early from the meetings, we don't track you as attending. Now, if it's evident that you're having internet connection issues, and you're not able to, you're trying to connect and you're repeatedly trying to connect and you're having problems connecting to the meeting, we do not count that against you. So that's, obviously, depending on where you live in the world, you may have bad connection, but it's really important for you guys to be in as best a place for your connection. So you have to think about make sure you're in the right place when you have these meetings, so that you're with us throughout and you're attending as much of the meeting as possible. So try to get there, within 10 minutes of start. You need to ideally get to the meeting at the start of the meeting and stay throughout the meeting. So let me just see if there's anything else. So if you can, so this is we have essentially most of the time we allow people to join this free, but if you're able to contribute, in some sense, the fee for participating in this program is $100 for non-presenting. So this does not, by the way, count our FDA, Anya, nor does this apply to our interns who are helping you guys. They're volunteers, they don't pay anything. But for those of you who are in fact looking to participate in this, who will be taking the pre-survey and the post-survey and so on, because you're benefiting from the service that we're providing, we ask you to contribute $100 if you're not presenting, $150 if you are presenting. However, you can contribute at whatever level that you're willing. So if that means, you know, $5 for you or something like that, feel free to do so. The link here to contribute is here, but you can also contribute via PayPal. And we can talk about the details of that if you'd like. Two important things here in terms of priority. One is if you can participate and present for those 12 spots, right? 3 per month in the next 4 months. We are going to be incentivizing. So first and foremost, if you present not alone, but if with a family member, one or more family members. So if you're able to present with one or more family members, please please do so. And you will essentially get a guaranteed place among the 12 presenters. The second priority is our past family diplomats. So those who have gone through our training in the last 2 years get priority place for the 12 spots. And then last, of course, is anybody who's new, like the gentleman from Morocco. If there are spots remaining, you will be able to participate. So one of the things that we're going to be doing today is identifying who wants to present and what issue you want to focus on. And then I will be connecting you with our Kennedy and Gabriela, who will be helping those of you who are preparing your presentations for August. Kennedy and Gabriela will be helping you with those. Anya, it's up to you. I don't expect you to help with that unless you want to. You're expected to kind of help with the feedback during the presentations. So okay, so I think that's pretty much it. I know I spoke a lot, but I hope I gave you a lot of details that were helpful but now we can just open it up for questions. I do want to take a photo of everybody, Joshua included, and Fatima, if you can turn on your cameras briefly, because we usually take photos and it's good to share with the world who's been participating with our meetings. So, and Eric, if you can turn on your camera as well, that would be great. And I'm going to take a photo on 3. And Abdul, if you guys can hear us, please turn on your cameras. On 3, 1, 2, 3, smile. Awesome. Let me just make sure I had everybody. Fantastic. And nobody had their eyes closed. Perfect. Beautiful. So questions, guys. Feel free to type your questions in the chat if you have trouble with your internet. So go ahead and ask questions. Jude, it's, by the way, good to see you. And it looks like your video is good. Joining us from Burundi, and it looks like a very nice view in the background. Questions? Want to see if you guys also are clear on what you want to present on. Nusrat from Bangladesh.
I have some questions about the presentation. The first one is like, is there any training session from where we can learn about the presentation, or it would be just the research by ourselves and the help of intern and the volunteer?
Sorry, I have to fully turn up my volume because I didn't hear you fully. Can you repeat your question?
Yes, I asked, is there any training session as like last year, like the storytelling training session? Is there any training session for presentation, learning presentation?
That's a very good question. No, this time around there's not. Uh, Keep in mind, it's not what we're not focusing on is your storytelling skill. So we're not training you in, and it's not even it's not, we're not training you in your ability to tell a story. And we're not testing you in that either. We are instead looking to see how much you learned from the start to the finish. And it's not just about your presentation, it's about all the other presentations. So that hence why it's important for you guys to attend all the meetings, because you'll be learning in the process about these different issues from your different vantage points in the world. So hence why we don't really need a train. Well, actually, we probably, this is we unfortunately we have because we're doing a democracy festival in Washington, D.C. in the fall in October. We don't have a lot of time to do training for the Family Diplomacy Initiative, unfortunately, this year. So we're doing a kind of a shorter development or shorter program focused on knowledge. Um, uh, and and but the other thing is that it's not because what we're evaluating is knowledge, and it's stuff that you're going to learn in the process of attending these meetings, not from just your own presentation. There's no training that's absolutely necessary on this. I hope that makes sense, Nusrat.
Yeah, and I have another question, which is like, the presentation will be real-time presentation, or it would be like the pre-recorded version?
Yeah, very good question, because I didn't point that out. So unlike the storytelling that you guys were doing in the last couple of years, um, the where you could pre-record, in this case you're doing live. It's live presentation. However, in cases where it's really impossible for you to present live, you'll be able to do a recorded presentation. But we are encouraging you to do it live, because again, you're not being evaluated by the quality of your presentation in terms of your storytelling ability. You're being evaluated essentially by what you're going to learn over these 4 meetings, and not just from your own presentation and preparation, but what you learn from the other family diplomats and new people who are presenting. So, so you don't have to worry about the quality of your presentation. You do want to nonetheless present as well as you can, and provide as much information as you can that gives people a clear picture of the issue and how it impacts your family, your community, and your country. Does that make sense, Nusrat?
Yes, and I mean, during the presentation, do I need to include the story of my family, or I can talk about the other families, those who are suffering the same issues?
Preferably you should talk about your family, but you can and you should talk about other families that are being impacted. But as you know, Nusrat, quite well, we are family diplomats are powerful. To some extent, their power derives from their ability to tell stories about particular families, and ideally their own family, right? And so, to the extent that you're able to talk not just about talk about your family, but other families that you know, that's great. And in fact, those are some of the things that you can include in your presentation. Is if you have a photo of some of your family, or a photo of other families, or photos in your case, if you're talking about climate change, of the impact of climate change, how families have been affected by climate change in your country, like their homes and how they've been destroyed if they're standing in their homes, um, that's more powerful, right? So yes, you can talk about other families, and but ideally you should also include your family. If your family has not been as affected or not affected at all by the issue, then you can focus on other families, and ideally families that you know, but they don't necessarily have to be families that you know.
And is there any time limitation?
Yes, you've got 15 minutes. You'll have 15 minutes to present, and then you'll have 10 to 15 minutes of feedback. So, and we will time this. So we'll cut you off if you go on. We'll give you basically tell you've got 5 minutes left, and I don't know, it's maybe 2 minutes left. So you'll be able to kind of get some signal from us before we cut you off. But at 15 minutes, if you haven't finished, you'll be cut off. Or we'll ask you essentially to finish, and we'll interrupt you if you go on for more than 15 minutes.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
You're welcome, Nusrat. Chia.
Yes, Paul, thank you. What I want to ask is that basically you want to build us, like you want us to upgrade and get to learn more because of what we already learned already. Is that what you want? Like, number two question is, so we will be focusing on the 5 topics that you have presented, like the war, internet, gender-based violence, and all that. So this is what we will mostly focus on, right?
Right, but you need, so to your second question, you need to focus on, oops, let me just mute you, I think, because it's probably interfering with the sound. You need to focus on, figure out, you can't really talk about the 5 issues, nor am I asking you to talk about the 5 issues. You need to focus on one issue. You can talk about 2, maybe 3 issues if they in fact are affecting your family, but it's in your interest to focus on one issue, maybe 2. I would recommend you just focus on 1 or 2. In your case, it might be war, right? And poverty, if you want to choose a second issue. But there's no advantage to you of choosing 2 issues or 3 issues. You're not going to get credit of any kind for like piling on the issues, because you want to focus down. It's better for you to focus down on an issue and really provide details on that. Bless you, Julie. Um, so yeah, so that was your first question. That was your second question. To your first question, I just want to reiterate to make clear, we're measuring, so you're going to be taking this pre-survey, and if you haven't taken it already, I know that's a few of you have taken it already, which is good. You just need to take the pre-survey. The last question, I think it's the last question in the pre-survey, is the most important question. And it's the question you want to spend 10 minutes writing on. And you should time yourself, use your watch, use your your phone, and time yourself start to finish. Just write and then stop at 10 minutes. And complete the survey. If you didn't do that, for those of you who already completed the pre-survey, you can take it again by all means, and I'll just delete your first survey. But the important thing is, for each, the pre-survey and the post-survey, you want to take 10 minutes and write as much as you can about what you know about those 5 issues and how they impact families, right? So you're doing that now before August 11th when we start these presentations, and then you're doing that after November again for 10 minutes, so that we can compare. In the United States, we say apples to apples versus oranges to apples. We want to compare 2 apples. So that means 10 minutes now, 10 minutes then, and you tell us how much you know about those 5 issues and their impact on families, right? So hopefully, at the end of those, in November, after the meetings, you'll know more. You'll have a deeper sense and a kind of more integrated, deeper sense of those issues and their impact on families. So. Does that make sense, Chia? Oh, you're muted. Chia, you're muted.
Yes, thank you so much, Paul, for explaining. And I said before then, maybe we will become more professionals, you know. And yeah, yes, as you've said, it's very clear we choose, like for me, already I will choose war, and I will link the topic of war with my family, how it impacted my family as well. So that is good. Thank you so much.
Right. And that's good to know. Kennedy and Gabriela, who are in on this, I hope that you guys are paying attention. Well, I hope all of our interns are paying attention because you guys are going to be all giving feedback in August to those who are going to be presenting. But the so in Chia's case, it's on war and its impact on families. So we know that much. And let me see here. Juliana has questions.
Yes, I want to know if, because I want to invite my brother. I'll see if he is available in the Sunday I'm gonna present. And my question is, I should divide my time, 15 minutes, like 80 minutes for me and 7 for him, or
Good question. It's better actually if you guys and you've have access, and I'll probably share with you guys access to, when it comes to effective storytelling, we have materials for you to look at. And there are ways for you to make it more interesting than just simply, oh, you speak for 7 minutes and he speaks for 7 minutes or something like that. You can go back and forth between you and your brother in different ways. And that's actually better than just having he speaks for 7 minutes, you speak for 7 minutes. So some sort of back and forth, in one case, actually, so from storytelling in Uganda, um, this was another of a mom and her daughter. They did a question and answer, and one asked questions, the other one answered. Now, you don't necessarily have to do that. You could do a conversation between you two. You could do one saying something, like literally one says a sentence, the next person says a sentence, and you go back and forth like that. So there are different ways of presenting in engaging ways. And I would discourage you, actually, I would encourage you not to do 7 minutes, one person, 7 minutes, another, because that's not very interesting.
okay.
Or it's not as effective as storytelling.
Just to finish, it's because what I think is I'm gonna talk about poverty, but is about what I did traveling in some cities here in my state. But he did a job with Syrian refugees like 10 years ago, I guess. Then I thought he can bring an experience to share.
Juliana, that sounds fantastic. Not only are we going to learn about, it sounds like poverty in Brazil, but you're going to be having conversation with him about his experience of poverty in Syria. And then you guys are going to give a presentation about, whatever you want to do. It could be a comparison of the two. It could be, so you're comparing similarities and differences between their poverties. It could be that you're telling stories he tells stories about particular things that he found really powerful in the Syrian case, and that you found powerful in the Brazilian case. There are so many different ways that you can do this, but that sounds really exciting and interesting. And if you do that together, it's beautiful, right? I mean, this is what family diplomacy is supposed to be, is when you're learning together as a family and you're presenting together as a family, right? And so in fact, that gives shivers down my spine not right now
Okay.
as I'm talking about it, because I think that sounds really exciting.
Okay. Thank you.
Fatima. Fatima, can you hear us? Yep.
Yeah, I have a question. Once I talked about GBV or something, I remember. So that's supposed to be my first presentation, and now I should prepare my final presentation. I'm not getting this like about pre and post presentation. I'm not getting that sense. How
Okay.
it will be prepared.
Okay. Kennedy, can you do me a favor and open up the FDs, that FD sheet that you guys, because you and Gabrielle have talked with some of our FDs personally, and just open that sheet, and for each of our FDs who are indicating what they're going to be talking about, if you could indicate that in the notes column, that would be great, just so we have a record of who's going to be speaking. And you can probably color the whole row of the FD, let's say in like a purple color or something like that, so we know, because we're now identifying some of our speakers, because of course those of you who attend this meeting have first some priority in determining who's going to be speaking of the 12 spots. Of course, we have 12 spots and some people are coming up. There will be new people who are not at this meeting and who are planning nonetheless on presenting, including some of our FDs or family diplomats who will be part of the mix, but we need to record each and every one of you what you're going to be talking about. So in Juliana's case, it's with her brother and on poverty, but it sounds like poverty in Brazil and Syria. Fatima, so you're presenting only once. I just want to make clear, but you're taking a survey twice. Now, before we start August 11th with the presentations, and after all the presentations end in November. And the survey, we're going to be asking you in both to write for 10 minutes to the same question. And the question is essentially asking you, what have you learned about these 5 issues and how they impact families, right? And the 5 issues are poverty, war, climate change, gender-based violence, and the internet. So does that clear things up? And what we're testing is your knowledge learned from point A pre-survey to point B at the end of the meeting, at the end of the meetings, your post-survey. And it's going to be done independently by a group of other volunteers, nobody here, because we want those people not to know you, not to be affected by your anything other than the presentation of your knowledge. And so all they're going to be looking at, they're not going to be looking at your video presentations, although we are going to be recording these, and you might have noticed we're recording this because I need to share that with everybody else who hasn't attended this meeting. They're not going to be looking at your stories. They're going to be looking at what you learned and that you type in 10 minutes of your own. You're not cutting, and this is important, please don't be cutting and pasting from the internet. Do not use artificial intelligence or anything like that to write these pre and the post surveys. You just want to type and in 10 minutes and time yourself. Start a watch or start your cell phone. Time it for 10 minutes. You're typing about what you learned about those 5 issues, and stop after 10 minutes. And then you just send your survey in, and we're going to be comparing the text, what you wrote in your pre-survey and what you wrote in your post-survey. Does that make sense, Fatima?
Yeah, I got it now. Actually, I was confused with the word presentation. Like we make presentation by PowerPoint presentation and this kind of thing. So I was confused with that thing. Now it's very much clear to me. So
Okay.
where I'll find that survey form.
It is in the document. Did I share that? I don't think I did. I'm going to be sending it to the Facebook chat. Excuse me, the Facebook group. And let me share it right now. This page that I was sharing with you guys earlier. I'm going to post it in the Zoom chat right now. But that's
Yeah, that would be great.
that gives you all the information. But let me also pull up the survey. The pre-survey, and obviously I'm not giving you the post-survey because you don't want to answer that yet, but you are going to be answering the pre-survey. So let me pull that up right now and share it in the Zoom chat.
Okay, so are we supposed to write it today or tomorrow, or like as
Yeah,
soon as possible?
exactly, as soon as possible.
Okay, okay. I got it. I am clear now. Thank you so much.
Great, you're welcome. Let me put this in the Zoom chat right now. That's the pre-survey. So just remember that the last question in the pre-survey is the most important question. You should answer all the questions, but the last survey, you're going to spend 10 minutes. You're going to time yourself, type, and then submit your survey. Other questions? Chia is asking, what if someone copy and paste? How would you identify? Good question, Chia. To some extent, we have to trust you, but we know that it's more suspicious, for instance, if your English is perfect and you write in a really flowery manner or in some manner that looks like AI. AI, unfortunately, fortunately, has not evolved to the point where it doesn't tell falsehoods. Sometimes it will just tell something that's false, and because it can't distinguish between what's false and true on the internet, it's just pulling from the internet. And so sometimes you can tell there's a falsehood, although of course you might have gotten something false as well, so that's difficult. But the other element to it is sometimes you can tell just by the construction of the sentences. And so I know in some of your cases your English is not perfect, and if suddenly your English is perfect, that's suspicious, right? So don't give us perfect English because then we're going to be suspicious. Unless, of course, you have perfect English. Yeah, exactly. Yes, you can cut and paste something, as Fatima's pointing out, and put it in and see if it appears somewhere on the internet. It's another way you can check. So hopefully you guys are honest and you're not going to be doing that. Any other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, of course, you guys, this is not the end of the questions. Yeah, there are lots of tools to detect AI content or plagiarism, as Nusrat points out in the Zoom chat. But you will be able to ask more questions when you join our when you are part of our FDs in the FDs group. I think where is his name? Our man from Morocco, Abdesamad. If you're still with us, I probably am going to add you to the Facebook group for our FDs. If you could, I don't know if we have we may be able to find your Facebook, but if you could post in the Zoom chat right now your Facebook profile, the link, not your name, because there are over 1 billion people on Facebook, but the link to your Facebook profile, I'd much appreciate it, because then we can add you to the group and then you can ask any questions and interact as needed. So that said, you can either post in the Zoom chat or you can tell us now, for those of you who have not spoken. I know, so we know from Juliana what she wants to present on and that she plans to present. We know from Chia, we know from Fatima, it's on gender-based violence. Keep in mind, Fatima, that you don't want to just talk about your family. So this is not the same as talking about when you did your storytelling, it was more focused on your family. You are welcome because you work with women on the ground in Pakistan, and I'm sure you've experienced stories about gender-based violence. You want to give us the broader context. So talk about really the statistics and the nature of gender-based violence in Pakistan, in not just in the community, in your province, and in Pakistan more generally. Okay, thanks. I'm gonna have to get used to your name, Abdisamad. So sorry for I keep butchering your name and I don't have it right in front of me without scrolling. But thanks for posting. What is it again?
Yeah, you can call me Bod or Abd. It's okay.
Okay, I will call you Bod. That sounds good. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And if you speak French, we'll have to speak French at some time. It's good to meet you. So yeah, so great, Fatima, that you're focused on province and country. That's totally fine. You may, though, want to talk as part of, impact, because even though we're measuring your knowledge, not your presentation skill, you still want to give a nice presentation, right? A good presentation, because we are going to be recording this and we are going to be posting this on YouTube. So you have an interest in doing a good presentation. And so, yes, statistics and background information about the what's happening in the province and in the broader country. But you also can bring up in the 15 minutes that you have stories of particular women or families that have been impacted by whatever issue you're focusing on. Okay. We've got I think Abdi, let me go back to your Abad. I'm sorry, you just told me. Bod, what would you like to present on?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the brief explanation and simple explanation. Well, personally, I don't mind presenting on any topic, but I would very much like to present on the poverty, for example, that affects the family, the majority of families here in Morocco.
Okay, that's great. That is perfectly good. So Kennedy, you're noting this? Awesome. And Eric from Burundi, what would you like to present on? I'm assuming, by the way, that all of you want to present. You do not, as I just remind you, you do not have to present. And you can serve as an evaluator, and you can still get a certificate of completion because we're testing your knowledge of everything that's discussed over the next 4 meetings, not your own presentation, right? So you can just serve as an evaluator and do the certificate before and after. Get the certificate once you're done with all the meetings. Eric, if you're still with us, and you can hear us, any thoughts on your presentation? What topic that you would want to focus on?
Thank you again. I will focus on poverty. That's the
Okay.
topic.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, and that seems to make sense. Great. So, and then Nusrat, just to confirm, it is climate change and how it's impacting families in your country, in Bangladesh.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, great. I think that is everybody. Let me just scan here. I think may have lost connection, but we'll check with him to see if he does want to present. I think there may Anya, I don't know if you remember if there's anybody else that was on the call that other than Itai. Oh, there was Jules from Burundi. I will message him. I think he's in our FD's group, even though he's actually formally he's not gone.
Yeah, Amy also left. I just made note of that.
Amy? Who's Amy?
Back.
Oh, Amy is
Oh,
one
get
of our-
back.
Amy's one of our interns.
Oh, fabulous. Okay.
Yeah. And she's back with Kat too, which is good. So any other questions before we end? All right, guys, I'm excited to be working with you again for FDs and with Anya. Hopefully Savannah and Maham, who have worked well, Maham has worked with us and is an intern. She's interested in serving as an FDA. But Maham, I don't know if Anya, if you remember Maham, but she is pregnant with her first child. And so she's busy with that. So I don't know how busy she will be, but in any case, I think she's planning on attending at least some of the meetings and providing input to you guys. And you guys, I think, know those of you who took the training this past year, should remember Maham because she was served with us for your presentations. Yeah, and then there's Savannah, who I'm hoping will be able to attend a number of these meetings as well, to provide you guys input. So one last thing to do, I almost forgot. Any of you brave souls who have volunteered, who want to present, in August. This again is August 11th. And you are expected, by the way, if you want to participate and you want to get a certificate, I just want to reiterate to participate in at least 4 of the 5 meetings. So you should participate in all 5 if you can. There's just 1 meeting per month. And the next meeting is August 11th, Sunday, August 11th, same time. So 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Washington, D.C., New York time. Who would like to present in August? If you don't volunteer now, I will be picking people based upon who plans to present to go on August 11th, and I'll do that probably in the next week, because we want to give you plenty of time to prepare, and then get you the support from Kennedy and Gabriela that you need to kind of prepare. Any volunteers for? Okay, good. So Juliana, you'll check with your brother. But Fatima, Chia, Eric. Oh, Joshua is another person that we did not that dropped the call from Uganda. So we're missing. But anybody want to volunteer for August? And Bod.
Well, I would like to volunteer on August, but I might not be available at the time.
Okay. So you can just tell us, I'm going to add you to the group, and you can just tell us, but we'll be making a decision on this in the next week, so that we can get you guys started and preparing. All right, everybody. Thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to working with you all and see you in August. Bye, everyone.